Israel says it's discovered what it calls the biggest Hamas tunnel in Gaza. The IDF has released footage of the 4-kilometre tunnel near the Erez border crossing in the northern end of the Strip. The Israeli military says it goes to a depth of 50 metres, is equipped with electricity and ventilation, and is wide enough for cars to pass through. The claims have not been verified, but Israeli military officials say the destruction of the vast Hamas tunnel network is one of the main aims of its offensive following the deadly attack in southern Israel on October the 7th.
This is no ordinary tunnel. It's a city, an underground city of terror that Hamas dug and built instead of investing money in the residents of Gaza. The tunnel that was uncovered was used, among other things, to carry out offensive activities against our forces in the Gaza Strip. A few days ago, terrorists were also identified in the tunnel and were eliminated by the Israeli Defense Forces.
Israel continues to pound Gaza with airstrikes. Hamas says no more hostages will be released until the war ends. On a visit to the region, France's foreign minister called for an immediate truce to assist the release of more captives and to allow more aid into the enclave.
The systematic bombardments are causing too much suffering. Israel must preserve the lives of civilian populations as international law demands it, and must agree to a ceasefire which would also allow for the liberation of hostages. It must allow aid and the distribution of aid in bigger volumes, while the population is exposed and suffers from many things.
The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says close to 19,000 Palestinians have been killed in the conflict. The health system is totally overwhelmed, and aid workers say hospitals are only able to provide limited care.
There's been a non-stop stream of injured people coming in on trolleys, on donkey carts, on stretchers being pushed down the road. There are almost no medical staff here. This largest referral hospital here in Gaza has become a trauma stabilization point. They can only provide the most basic care for people with very serious injuries and very serious illnesses.
Across Gaza, people are desperate for food, medicine and other basics. As soon as trucks carrying supplies arrive, they're mobbed by crowds. Middle East correspondent Alison Horn reports from Jerusalem.
The United Nations estimates half of Gaza's population of 2.3 million people is starving, as the humanitarian crisis there deepens each day, 10 weeks after the start of this war. These images show the desperation of Gazans running after the small number of aid trucks that are getting into the Strip. These trucks carrying food, water, blankets and medical aid are soon mobbed, with dozens of people endangering their lives as they try to grab food off the trucks, some even jumping on top of them just to get some of that precious food. Some of these trucks are being stripped of their supplies, and the UN has already warned that these sort of scenes are making it near impossible to try to get aid through the Strip for distribution. Now, for weeks I've been speaking with families in Gaza who've told me they've been going days without eating any food, lining up for hours and hours to access what little water is available. Israel has given a commitment that 200 aid trucks will soon be allowed into Gaza each day, but aid agencies say that still won't be enough to feed the hundreds of thousands of hungry mouths of the Palestinians who've been cut off from supplies by the war. And every day, Israel's military assault expands in Gaza, with the south the new major focus. An Israeli airstrike today hitting the area of Rafah, a so-called safe zone, according to Israel. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the bombing and fighting will continue, in his words, to the end, despite widespread international pressure for a ceasefire, and also calls from the families of hostages worried their loved ones will be killed in the fighting. 3 Israeli hostages were killed by Israeli forces inside Gaza just a few days ago. One has been farewelled at a funeral. And some families say the fighting must stop and a diplomatic solution is needed to get their loved ones home. Prime Minister Netanyahu says new negotiations negotiations are underway with Qatar to secure a new hostage release deal, but Hamas, for its part, says it won't be engaging with negotiations until, in its words, the Israeli aggression stops once and for all.